Hey, all right. I'm going to hold it like this. So I'd love to introduce our panelists. Right? Don't you do this with a handheld, Mark? Isn't this? Mark taught me this move back in 2015 when we were on a panel together. Brand Innovators goes way back, I tell you that much. So please come to the stage, Shannon, Anna, and Aneessa. Round of applause. Welcome, welcome. So if you guys don't mind just going down and introducing yourselves so everyone knows who you are and what you do.
Sure. I'm Shannon Saper. I am the Vice President of Trade Marketing at NBCUniversal. My team is responsible for all of our industry tentpole events like CES, Cannes, as well as our industry partnerships, hence Brand Innovators, and also our CRM and client communications efforts.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. I'm Sayre. I lead the North American marketing team at the Trade Desk. We're responsible for events, experiences, thought leadership, campaigns, everything to get our sales team more awareness and more engagement with our audience of who we're all very familiar with, upstream brand marketers and agency leaders. I've been at the Trade Desk about 3.5 years, and before that, spent a decade at Ogilvy in New York and Singapore.
Good morning. So my name is Aneessa Steilen. I'm a VP of Media and Distribution Marketing at Vevo. I've been there for 6 years, and I lead our go-to-market strategy and execution for the global marketing to advertisers and distribution partners, really focused on maximizing the commercial and promotional value of music videos. So all in all, I do exactly what Anna and Shannon do, but just with the brand Vevo behind me.
Awesome. And again, I'm Paul Kontonis. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of REVRY. REVRY is a global LGBTQ first streaming media company. Prior to there, I was over at Viacom Ad Solutions as CMO there, part of acquisitions. That was very heavily my world of B2B marketing. Now I get to do B2B and B2C, and so it's my honor to be speaking here with these experts for sure who are going to give you amazing insights. And let's start with what our panel topic is. We're talking about 2023. So you've started to think about all this. You've started to plan this all out. What are you most excited to do next year in your plans? What do you see as something that's going to be really stand out for you? Who wants to jump in first?
I'll start. I think just be able to do what we have planned. You know, this year was certainly a challenge. I think starting with CES, we all hoped going into 2022 that we were finally going to get back to normal, be able to have that client experiences and events and be able to see people in person and have those interactions, which are just so important with what we do. And, sadly, starting with CES, that those plans got, derailed. And then, there were other things. And then I think we were kind of a little gun shy going into the rest of the year as we were planning, like, are we going to be able to do it in person? Are we not? Are we going to have to test people? Are we going to have to wear masks? Just kind of all of the, the things that make our job really difficult. So I think just really excited where we're finally in a place where we can have these in-person experiences and really get back to it. We know that our world will be forever changed. There's always going to be a hybrid nature, now moving forward. But just really excited to be able to get back to normal.
Plus one to that. We went back to school yesterday and also back to work, back to the office. The Trade Desk welcomed 550 people to our New York office, which was massive. It felt like first day of school for all of us as well, but we were reminded by our C-suite team who's based in New York that there's that serendipity and magic in being together and kind of the human connection, and I think that was so missed. And what we're bringing from our year plus in lockdown is that I think everyone's a lot more intentional about how we spend our time. So we're seeing in the smaller events that we're doing, people are engaged because they're choosing to be there. They're actively leaning in, being a part of the conversation because they've made trade-offs, and we've all been really good about that.
You said the keyword, human, and that's what we're excited about. We're excited to bring the business to human marketing to life yet again in 2023. And we learned a lot in the past 2 years of what we can do, how we can stretch ourselves, how we can get creative and think differently with a lot less at our fingertips. And we were successful, and we're really proud of what we've done, and I think we can all say that. But I think we're also really excited to take those learnings, bring them to the things where to that normal, that comfortable spot that we had previously, and meld them together to see what success we can have going forward. And using that human interaction and then the intention that we have when we show up to events or when we put together materials to just to think a little differently based on the experiences we've had over the past 2 years, bring them to the future, and really, that business to human spark that I think we've kind of missed on the screen through Zoom and WebEx and whatnot.
Quick show of hands, how many people have to be more human connected now going back to the office? Who doesn't have to go back to the office? Yeah, it's because we're...
Oh, yeah, I was going to say 50-50 split.
Yeah. Hybrid. So we even have a hybrid audience here. What was missing that because of that human connection, right? And that was gone from so many of these events that we had to keep doing all through this time period. And Brand Innovators was great and rolling right into their virtual programming. And this idea that there's still going to be hybrid, yes, we all get that. But what comes with the human side that has been missing?
I mean, Anna said it, the serendipity moments, but also people do business with people they like.
Yeah.
And as much as we show up on screen, it's hard to make a true unique connection and like somebody when you are not physically with them. And I like Anna and Shannon way more today than I did last week when we met virtually, right? So I think having those virtual meetings and introductions are great, and those are not going to go away. But then being able to say, I'll see you at CES. I'll be there at Advertising Week. What are you doing for Cannes? Let's meet up because we'll all be there. Like, I think that is what you miss when you're on the screen. And again, those connections that not only us as marketers can have together, but can also facilitate for our clients and our partners, that is, I think, what we've been missing, and will just be exponential in the enjoyment of everybody's business.
Mm-hmm. Is that because we're wearing pants and shoes? and people do business with people who wear pants and shoes?
Yes.
Clothed people.
Close. Yeah. What are you seeing on your end?
I would agree. I think, when you're seeing somebody on a screen, it is more about that like business transaction. Like, okay, I've got, my 25, 30 minutes, like then I got to go rush and, make lunch or take the laundry out, or, when you're in person, you're really focused and you're able to have those, personal conversations and interactions. And, even like we're out there chatting about our kids' first days back at school. And I think you get to know people on a more personal level. And, also to think about it, like you're traveling, you talk about your travel nightmare stories, my luggage got lost, this happened. I think there's just those human interactions that happen with in-person.
Anna, are you looking at your teams and saying, make sure you have your business cards?
Yes, but they came prepared. Everyone links in ahead of time, for sure. The virtual business card now. I think what we're finding is that we are planning for CES already, talking about top to tops, and one of our sales leads was like, no business happens there. It happens afterward with a drink, or it happens over dinner when you're finding out how you meet your spouse. So we put so much pressure on programming these incredible thought leadership opportunities, but it's really like, that's just the vehicle to have the moments of connection. And so I'm really inspired about that. There's a lightness to work that I didn't have. I felt like kind of a mean troll. I'm like, oh, someone's slacking me again, like at home. And to have those moments where you can laugh and share and come together and like, oh, I'm alive again. Thank you.
Yeah.
In talking to all three of you, your connection to the actual understanding of how so many of these events work and the moments within there, we didn't plan this part, but I would love to know, at CES, do you have a favorite spot to get or to facilitate that after the thought leadership moment connection? I know I got my favorite spot. It's the first bar when you come into the Cosmo. We'd always get the back of that. We'd buy it out every night in the back and do that. Do you have any tips like that for people? Like what's your hot spot you're going to make sure your team has to go entertain?
I love the secret ghost donkey bar also at the Cosmo.
Yeah.
That they have great margaritas if you're a margarita fan.
That's nice. This might be a crazy take. I've never been to CES. Ooh. Yeah. So
You're
I'll
not
be looking
missing out.
Same?
You're not missing out.
That's what I hear. Everyone's like, yeah, we're going. We don't want to.
Yeah,
but we're going.
No one wants to go to CES.
Yeah.
We know that.
We're at the Aria, so location, easy there. So yeah, I'll be looking for tips.
I think just to your other point, I mean, there's plenty of spaces to do business outside of the ARIA suites, which we will all be at, and we will all be taking meetings, of course. But it's your point of you have to be there, but you're not going to transact there, right? So it's going back to the full funnel marketing, because a lot of the events that we've been doing virtually, I feel like have really focused us on mid funnel, which is obviously super important, right? You want to transact, you want to think about purchase intent, but the awareness and the favorability is lacking at the upper funnel because we haven't been able to be in person and connect. So to your whole point, we're going to show up at CES, we're going to connect with our clients and our partners, and then we're going to go home, and then we're going to start talking about the purchase intent. We're going to, you're not going to show up at CES with an IO, look ridiculous. But then once you do have that connection, then you can come back and start peppering in more of the lower funnel sales tactics that you can arm your sales team with after they have that upper funnel, like that halo effect for them.
So you can see why I was so excited to do this panel, right? We are going to have time for questions. I'm just giving you a heads up in advance, so get your questions ready. Let's continue down this pathway. So we're going to have these human connections next year. We're actually going to be able to do them, right? We're going to have intent. Let's talk about the attribution side. Let's talk about how we assign a value to these events and how to be able to say, ooh, that one worked. So we're going to sponsor Brand Innovators at CES. Maybe. How do we know it worked? How are we gonna track that afterwards?
I like what you said in the prep call about art and science. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. Our team specifically, I mentioned, are focused on CRM efforts, and we've really been trying to figure out new ways. Obviously, you have the go-to where you kind of just interview your sales team and find out what is working for them, what is not. But we've really been, during these 2 years where we've been remote, trying to focus on how can we make all of our systems kind of talk together, work together. And so we've, been in the process of trying to link our Splash account and our event tools with Salesforce so that we're really able to see almost a dashboard across, what events people are being invited to, what events are they attending, and then after the fact, are they doing business with us? And I think that is going to be really important as we get into this next year. And we are getting back to doing more in person, which obviously has a bigger expense than doing virtual and hybrid events. And so I think our finance teams are going to be looking to us to say, what are the events that are really worth continuing to invest in, and where do we want to maybe scale back, and where do we want to go bigger? So really kind of having all those systems, work together to give us a clear picture on what's working well.
Wonderful. One of the earlier panels was talking about asking the sales team, are you confident you can get people there? And starting with that as a metric. And I think for us, it's really aligning early with the business team to say, okay, instead of the marketing KPIs that we're used to thinking about, what number of new relationships are we getting you? What percentage of the database is increasing? What are we going to do that's actually moving your business forward as opposed to being in our marketing world with the traditional KPIs that we think about? So we're trying to push ourselves to be more aligned from the very beginning.
Yeah, the art and science thing just hits home because I think we're really good at the art part, right? Like talking to your sales team, again, in person, so that human connection, making sure we have really good relationships with our sellers so that they feel comfortable giving us feedback. And then the science part is that technology. So as marketers, we also have to be chief technology officers to understand all of the systems, and it can be really challenging and difficult because that's also a cost. So again, from a finance perspective, they're like, well, do you need this? And you're like, yeah, I do, so that I can get more money next year, and you'll trust me, and all those things. And I think just remembering, you mentioned the KPIs and identifying also who is going to be where and how you're going to spend for those customer segments. So when you throw a specific event, not the same customer comes to all your events, right? So CES is a different clientele versus Cannes versus Advertising Week, and understanding who's attending at each of those events, and then catering the ROI or the expectation, the KPI based on that attendee. So is it a senior level executive or is it more that day-to-day transactional person? Both important, but you're going to show up differently for them. And so understanding that audience at that event will help translate that ROI later on.
Good. I like that. Anna, you said something that made my ears perk up. You said turning to sales is saying, can you get people there at the event? I've always thought of the events I was putting on the B2B side was I could get people there. I was programming something that would be so good I could get people there, but could sales close them? Could sales do their job? Talk to me about this, the relationship with sales that you have, and I'd love to know at each of your organizations, what is that relationship with sales?
Yeah, I'll kick off. Because we are in hyper growth, there's still a deep respect between sales and marketing. So we walk into the room, they're happy to see us. They're grateful we're there. They're like, oh, the work you guys are doing is awesome. And I haven't worked at a company where that's the case. So it's, number one, really awesome. And I'm grateful for that teamwork. We are really focused on convening those marketing leaders together. And we're confident that our sales team can pitch and keep a conversation going. So we're just cultivating a really beautiful experience and then helping them to follow up in a really easy way afterward. I spent the last kind of year and a half in this role, just understanding what they care about, where we can make their life easier, and how can we build for scale. So I think of us as kind of an extension of the sales org.
Yeah, and I think it's also about leveraging, for us, finding even more and more important to leverage industry partnerships like, we have with Brand Innovators and other industry organizations to really help, find new people that maybe our salespeople aren't already talking to, and new business, and just making those connections. And they really, I think value, because, they've got their Rolodex of clients that they're used to meeting with, but sort of kind of introducing them to a new set through those industry partnerships. And I think that's also a great way to help, fill the room at an event, because when you have, connections, at places like Brand Innovators or, the IAB or all these different organizations, they have contacts and they have friends. And, if the invite kind of comes from them, or, hey, I'm going to be attending this, I think that's also a great way to help, fill your room. And
Got to fill the room. Aneessa?
Well, I started my career in sales. And so I know, shh, don't tell anyone. But I love sellers. I have empathy for their experience. And so I think that really helps me as a marketer build those relationships, those human connections with my number one customer, who is the seller, who is our sales team. And then their customer is then our clients and our partners, right? So first I have to think about, how am I going to sell this event or this narrative or this experience that we're building to the sales team? Because then they have to go out and sell it to our clients, right? They have to sell our narrative and what we're selling out to the clients, but first they have to buy into it themselves. So having been a seller, having understanding of their experience, I think has been really advantageous in my career as a marketer, so that I can say, like, are you going to fill the room? Because I know this is what it's like. I know you're up against all this competition. I know that the trade desk is doing this experience. So let's make sure, we're complementary to that. We're not competing with it. And to everyone's point about Brand Innovators, we're able to say, hey, we're going to put you in a room with the people you want to talk to, right? And I think that's really important, so that they can trust us and trust what we're doing. And it doesn't happen at hello, right? We have to do a good job for people to trust us. And I think, again, just being able to empathize with their situation and level set and be like, I get it. This is what you're up against. Here's my plan. What's your feedback? Tell me how it went. Obviously, we can't accept, they're always going to want to spend more money, and us as marketers and owning the budget, we have to balance that with everyone else's requests and needs. But I truly think, like, having that empathy for a seller really makes our jobs more impactful that way.
Quick question on budget: up or down next year, or flat?
we're still in the midst of all that.
I mean, I'm going to ask for more. Am I going to get more? I don't know.
Are you expecting more, less, the same?
Listen, I think, I actually, I mean, we're going to plan for we have the same and
That's good.
see what happens. And, but I think, what we have learned how to do is get a lot more creative with less over the past 2 years. And, and even just rethink the way that you do things. Like one of the things that we've completely rethought is as we started to get back to in-person, when we're giving out swag, like a great way to save money, instead of handing something out to everyone, which half the time, like you don't really want to lug home or put in your suitcase, especially if you're carrying on. So we've started doing virtual gifting experiences where you hand them a card with a QR code and they go to a site. And then if they want to choose to get that gift, they can have it sent to their home. If not, then like it's one less gift that we didn't have to give out. So I think just kind of getting creative with budget in ways like that, is something that we'll look to do as we get into the
So doing more
year.
with the
more-
same,
yeah.
asking for more. Where are you?
Great question. This year, I'm so proud that we aren't giving money back.
Ooh,
Oftentimes
nice.
we've underspent and
Yep.
like not happening in this year. So we're really focused on that. We'll see where we net out. We'll do the same. We'll probably ask for more, but I feel like every year we get better and more disciplined about the return. So it's easier to make the case. And I feel really confident that we can say, this is what we got out of it. This is how the business team is vouching for it. And we're really an aligned force with that request.
Yeah, I'm budgeting for more. I got to go for it. You got to go for it.
Have to ask.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the different kinds of people in the audience and the different types of events. So brand innovators, promise of value, brands are in the room, okay? Brands, in most cases, are not our direct customer. They are not necessarily the ones always buying. There's somebody in between as an agency. So how do you balance out the events that you go direct to brand to talk to them, to then the agencies in between, and then anybody else you might be reaching? How do you balance between those two? Or prioritize, let's say.
Yeah, for us, it really depends on the sub-region of the importance. So Seattle for us is a big brand market. So we did a really small event and that was a huge success. East Coast, we got to do more holdco. So we're doing a bigger agency luncheon. So we're really this second half of the year focused on piloting different versions of that by sub-regions. And we select key rocks and have strategies for sub-regions based on those audiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us as NBC, it's both are equally important. But I kind of, to your point about targeting specific audiences, we're finding the smaller, more curated events perform really well. People's time is more valuable. They want to go to something that's really going to benefit them. So kind of creating these smaller, more intimate experiences that maybe will focus, for a brand, they probably want to know see how their brand can be brought to life through, our programming or sponsorship. And so I think kind of creating a curated experience from that perspective, whereas on the agency side, they're wanting to see more high level, how are we creating experiences that can cover all of the multitude of brands or their specific category. So I think it's just about creating those smaller, more intimate experiences, even at the bigger events. Like at Cannes, we did some smaller, more curated dinners for specific brand and agency clients, and those seemed to perform really well.
Is that just post-pandemic, or were you doing that pre-pandemic as well?
I think some pre-pandemic, but I think it's become more important post-pandemic.
Yeah,
Because
that
again,
goes back
people
to
are
that
more
intention
choosy,
idea. More choosy,
about what
more
they do.
intentional in their actions.
Yeah, I totally the same vibe. So you have to cater to that agency and speak to the larger picture, right? They have multiple brands, and a lot of the new front activity that we do is really agency focused, right? We're trying to present at the new front, close our upfront business. And then from there, our teams have to go and sit with the individual clients and create those client direct relationships so that the agency can then register the right amount of budgets. Maybe I'm getting a little technical here, but to your point, Anna, about whether it's Seattle or even most of the West Coast is a client direct coast for us, even in the Midwest. And then on the East Coast, holdcos especially are the point. So creating those smaller, unique opportunities for our sales team to engage directly with brands are of key importance and also sometimes the hardest to do, which is why sorry, this is like a brand innovators commercial, but like that's why we like brand innovators so much, is because there's a lot of marketers that show up at those events and they don't all, it's hard to sometimes get them other places. So partnering with the right trade organizations to find the brand marketers is of the utmost importance. And it was a challenge for us even before the pandemic. But I think to your point, Shannon, like time is money, and we have to be very intentional with it.
Your turn. Questions. We have a few minutes left. They're thinking of their closing statement, their one takeaway for 23. There are microphones in the back, and we'll start with you.
Hi, Jessica Vogel, Marketing VP for Movable Ink. I just was curious how you do good attribution for like the top of funnel trade shows industry. I think we have a good understanding of how our hosted events where we're capturing that like zero and first party data work, but kind of struggling to think about how we can justify the spend and expected ROI when we're not like, scanning badges or getting business cards.
I mean, I would say I think that's where the relationship with the sales teams is super important at those events, and really touching base with them to find out what interactions they had, at those events. Because obviously, to your point, you can't really follow up with kind of the natural Salesforce, KPIs and looking at from that perspective. So I think that's where the relationships are super important in, just syncing with them on the value that they're seeing there.
It was Aneessa who said art and science during the prep call.
Was it?
Yeah, you did. That was the point.
Okay.
I pointed to you, Shannon, earlier, but it was you. So I think it is that mix. I'll echo what you were saying about the sales org. We're even looking back at Cannes to say, okay, what came out of those 80 plus top to tops? How do we justify that if we want more people to go next year? And we have to be aligned in doing it. It can't just be the high level contact us forms or video completion views or more traditional brand metrics. It has to be looking at both brand and performance.
I also think, like, what happens if you don't go, right? You could say, well, nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And then that's right. Nothing happens. Your business doesn't necessarily move forward. You don't have that upper funnel. You're not filling the upper funnel and giving out brand awareness. And your sales team is walking into rooms and they're like, wait, who are you? I didn't see you, or I didn't hear your name at CES, at Cannes, at Advertising Week or whatnot. So again, it's difficult, and you do have to have those relationships with your sales team, and you have to trust anecdotal measurement, because that's at the end of the day, some of the things that marketing does is a little bit anecdotal, and the flip side is just like, what if you don't do it?
Mm-hmm. FOMO is really motivating.
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
FOMO. And by the way, badge scanners need to train physically. Send them to speed, agility, and quickness training. Oh, hi, scan. Oh, hi, scan. Over there. Hi.
Hi, Director of Marketing at REVRY, Lauren. Another question for the panel here. So in a world of flat budgets and in a world that's constantly changing, how do you inject innovation into your marketing, especially like your tentpole events, either that you're sponsoring or that you're owning? And how do you kind of inject those topical trends like the metaverse, NFTs? You guys aren't necessarily NFT companies, right? But how do you make sure that you're showing up in a way that's going to be relevant for these like large brands that are thinking about these things?
Mm-hmm. Great question. We have an editorial engine called The Current, and there's a weekly newsletter that goes out on Thursdays. I'm very biased, but I love it. It's great, kind of jargon-free about the industry. And that's an opportunity for us to talk about topics that might not normally come into our meetings or thought leadership panels. So for us, that's a really helpful vehicle to be top of mind and have holiday trends or whatever the kind of the latest trend is. It really helps us to do that. So for us, it's using that editorial.
And I would say also looking for partnership opportunities, even with non-competitive, companies. Like we might partner on something with, Vevo or the Trade Desk. And if you kind of combine your budgets and combine, your creativity and, your sales team's, reach and power, that can be really helpful. So I think that's something we've started to do more of, and I think we'll continue to do a lot more as we get into the new year, knowing that we probably will have to do, more with less. Mm-hmm.
And I know this is counting down, but we embrace the digital experience now that I think everybody's more comfortable with it. Like, you still need to use that, to your point, with your budgets to provide innovation to what you're doing. So I think, leveraging the digital touch points is still really important.
And in October, there's a conference, a B2B conference in the metaverse about B2B events, but only in the metaverse. So you
Can you
can
invite
only
us?
go. Yeah, anyone wants, let me know. I can get free passes.
We'll be there.
It's only in the metaverse to do networking and I don't know, all this kind of stuff. Jason, do we have time for your question, or do we run out of time?
No, it's my question. So
One question. Yeah.
My question.
Let's get you in.
Good morning, Jason Edelman from Brand Innovators. Firstly, the best place to do some schmoozing at CES is clearly at Michael Mina. The best conversations happen at Michael Mina. Come to Brand Innovators at CES. The question I want to know is, how often are you thinking about utilizing your existing clients to activate at trade marketing events? So, for example, if you're invited to come speak on a panel somewhere, maybe bring a client to be able to talk about case studies. I want to know how much of that is part of your strategies.
Always top of mind for us. I think anytime you can have a client be an advocate for you, like, you've won, right? You've hit gold. So that's absolutely always top of mind, not only our clients, but to Shannon's earlier point, our partners. So if we can have one of our distribution partners speak with us, I think that's also a huge benefit to not only speaking to our strength as a partner and a marketer, but also in terms of bringing validation to our story and what we're saying in market to other clients and other partners.
I'd say the one trick with that is how you title that session. If you make it sound too much like a case study, then people read right through it and they don't go to it. So you have to make it sound like it's real editorial, but just also happens to have a case study buried in it somewhere. That's a little tidbit for you. We are done. We are out of time. Final statement you want to make about this human connection in 23? Final thought?
Just look forward to seeing everybody at all these great Brand Innovators events and trade events throughout the year. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.